Hello, my friends. Hello. Welcome back. We got some more Guardians Daily for you. As always, presented by FanArch. I'm your host, Luke Gable. Get right into the action. Tough weekend in Toronto. Got off to a good start in Toronto against the Blue Jays. Took game one on Friday night. The bats were hitting, doing what they were supposed to do. Kind of fine. Thought we found something heading into this series. Got game one on home. Martinez with two home runs on Friday night. Daniel Schneemann had a leadoff homer. Lot to like on the Friday night game. And you kind of thought that might be the recipe. Gavin Williams, not his best action, not his best start of the year on Friday, but that Blue Jays lineup, obviously, as we saw the rest of the weekend, has some really good bats in it. I know their record, they didn't get off to the best start, but obviously a World Series team last year. So you can see the talent there. Also, for the record, wearing sunglasses. I got a little cut on my eye. Was irritated this morning. Just wanted to address that for you. Should be a one episode thing. I don't know though. Kind of a cool thing. I kind of like the energy about it. Kind of relax, good vibe on it. So interesting look for me. But yeah, I just wanted to address that. Second off, what else do we got to get to in Toronto? Well, Gavin Williams, yeah, not his best stuff Friday night, but also it didn't kill them. Obviously, first time this year he's really gotten to pitch with a big lead, so that was nice. Kind of take some pressure off and have him with room to not have his best start of the season. Pulled that one out, but then Saturday and Sunday, two just clinkers. Really couldn't get the bats going. We're in both games, we're tied middle innings of both games and just could not make the easy plays and just kind of cost themselves some games. Obviously, Juan Brito with a big error and just some sloppy baseball overall. And then that's how you lose a series. So you lose two up north and rough weekend in Toronto for Cleveland sports in general. The Cleveland Cavaliers lost both of their playoff games in Toronto to the Toronto Raptors, and then the Guardians lose their series to the Blue Jays. So not things going the way we wanted for Cleveland up north, but baseball not as big of a deal. Not as big of a deal as the stuff with the NBA action. So we can move on. We're still 15 and 14 on the season, still a game above 500. Obviously, as you know, last year this team was 12, 15 games below 500 and still ended up coming back to win the division. So a lot of things can happen, like so early in a season. That's why we always say there's 162 of these, ride the highs, ride the lows, and you just kind of got to get through, you know what I mean? So that's where this team's at right now. Not a great week of baseball. A tough series against the Houston Astros, followed it up with Toronto. But I think there's still those signs with this team long term that give me a lot of cause for optimism. So now what we have going forward this week, we have the Tampa Bay Rays coming to town, and they are coming off a 4-game sweep of the Minnesota Twins. They've been playing some really good baseball. They are currently half a game back in the AL East, one of the best divisions in baseball, except for the Red Sox. They are a mess. That's been a big story in baseball. We'll see them down the road, but they've been a disaster so far this year. They just cleaned house. But the Rays, they have been one of those teams. A lot of similarities, I feel like, between Tampa Bay and Cleveland. Obviously, Kevin Cash over there, former Cleveland guy. And they've just got some of those players. Like they do a good job. They have a good pitching staff, and they do a good job with a low budget, similar to the Guardians. And they play good, solid baseball year in and year out. Like when you look at it, I feel like everyone gives Cleveland credit for what they do with the salary limitations. I think Tampa is another one that deserves a lot of credit for how consistently solid they are. Obviously, they haven't been as much of a playoff threat in the recent years, but they've always been a good team, especially in that division with the big spenders like everyone else is in there. Like obviously Baltimore's been up and down, and then obviously the New York Yankees have been one of the best teams in baseball for the past decade or so, even though they have not been able to get that World Series they've been so after. So give Tampa a lot of credit for what they've done over the years. They got a lot of good players. I like this roster. Aranda at first base is nice. I think Yandy Diaz, former Cleveland Indian, was one of my favorites at the time, and just continued to been up. Dang, how do we let that guy go? Because he was solid when he was Indians at the time, now Guardians. very solid player, but you never really thought this was going to be the guy. He's turned into an all-star. He's hitting 337 on the season so far. Like, crazy, and have good for Yandy in terms of what he's become. But that's a guy they let out of the building, and they didn't really want to, but they kind of had to, just based on where that roster was. That was a really good Indians team at that time, and they were loaded at the corner infield position. So Diaz was gone, but then another Cleveland Guardian who we let go moved away, and now he's one of the best young hitters in the sport. Junior Caminero, who we traded to Tampa for Tobias Myers. This Caminero was a guy that the Guardians got from overseas, from wherever he's from. I think Dominican. Yeah, Dominican. That's a good guess. And then let him go. They traded him for Tobias Myers, who they flipped, and then it all ended up working out poorly for the Guardians. Never really got a big league level player out of that deal. And Caminero's turned into one of the best hitters in baseball. Was in the home run derby last year, was an all-star. He's already got 8 homers so far this year, hitting above 300. Like, a lot of things to like about him. He was awesome in the World Baseball Classic, one of the best players in that tournament. So bummer there. That's a guy, when you see him this weekend, you're just going to think, man, that should be a guy in the middle of our lineup, and he'd be perfect fit. He'd be exactly what this team needs. But hard to criticize the Guardians front office because of how good of a job they have done in general. Like, think about some of the moves we've made over the years, like the Clevenger trade, or some of these other ones where you're like, that's what we were able to get back. Finding peak value out of things. So it's hard, obviously, but Tampa's a similar situation to us where they have those limitations, and they've done a good job as well. They're playing really good baseball right now. So this is not a great time for us to catch them. At least we are at home, and we do have our guy who's been one of the best stories in baseball this year, Parker Messick, on the mound, Monday Night Baseball. Love to see a good start from Parker. Obviously, been one of the best pitchers, obviously for the Guardians, but also out of all rookies in the baseball so far this year. Some of the best stats in the game. Obviously, almost threw that no hitter against the Orioles a couple weeks ago. A lot to like with Messick, and I think it's really exciting to see. I love when he gets to pitch at home in front of his home crowd. I think it gives a little life because Monday night Rays are in town. Not a big draw. The weather's supposed to be pretty nice though, so maybe we get a little bit more of a crowd, a little more action to go see. When there's going to be a guy you want to see on the mound, I feel like that's just an extra little boost to get yourself to buy a ticket, head down to the ballpark. So I think maybe Parker Messick could help that. Maybe he won't. Maybe it'll be dead down there, and maybe that's part of the deal about a Monday and end of April baseball game, especially with Tampa Bay coming to town. Not like they have many diehard fans in the area. They have a hard enough time filling up Tropicana. So I'm not going to give them too much of a expectation of them to have a crowd there for them. But we gotta rebound, guys. And I think there's a lot of things, and it starts with Parker Messick. Just, can you give us 6 quality innings? Can you keep them off the scoreboard early and give yourself a chance? The offense, just the middle of the lineup, has been such a struggle lately. I just don't know where we go from here in terms of the Manzardo, Hoskins, Fry, trio. I think they're just missing a power bat, and they're missing something in the middle of this lineup, and they're just gonna have to find a way without it for right now. And you can't expect. Obviously, you'd like one of those 3 guys to step up and go on one of these runs where you can't get them out and they're hitting the ball out of the park consistently. But right now, that's not in the equation. So, what can we do with this Guardians team to make up for it? Well, we can start on the mound with Parker Messick, have him get a nice dominant start tonight against Tampa Bay, and then that makes things a little bit easier on your lineup, takes some of that pressure off. So yeah, series preview. Want to think some keys to the series? I think Angel Martinez has been fantastic this year, and I think he, as a key to the rest of this season as well as the series, can he just stay on the tracks? He's been playing much better in left field. He's been making a lot of highlight plays, finding his comfort there, which means you can really start to feel that comfort for Stephen Kwan in center. Obviously, he's been banged up over the last week. So then Daniel Schneemann slides right into that center field spot. How good Schneemann and Martinez have been the best offensive players. I mean, other like surprise wise for this team for a good couple weeks now, and they got to be in the lineup every day. You got to find a way to get me Schneemann and Martinez in this lineup. And they're producing right now. They have the consistency you need. So there's something there with those two we found. They're both hitting almost 300. Schneeman's top of the league in doubles, right up there at the top of that leaderboard. They both started driving the ball out of the park a little more than you expected. Both homered, as I mentioned, in the Toronto series. So lots of like from those two guys. Those are kind of the keys to this series, I think, right now, is when you're not getting the production from Hoskins, Manzardo, and Fry. Can Martinez, can Schneeman, can those guys just keep hitting, keep getting on base, and then keep using that power? They've kind of some newfound pop out of those guys. That's going to be one thing I'm keeping an eye on this weekend. And then can Chase DeLauder find it again? You know, he had a couple hard hit balls in that series, but still not a great series there in Toronto. And I'm not overly concerned about his long term projections and everything like that. I think we know the pros and the cons of DeLauder in terms of the injury stuff, in terms of how good of a start he got off to his career and to this season. So it's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be process. There's going to be dips. We get that. But where does he end up as a long term player? I'm still not quite sure yet. But for this season, for the 2026 Guardians, Chase DeLauder, I don't know where we're going to get going forward. So I think this is a big next month or so. But I mean, but still, all the way from right now until the end of June, this little chunk is going to be the time where we get to see what he's got and what he's made of, where he can solidify himself. Can he stay in that two hole at the top of the lineup? Can he get on another one of those runs, get on another heater, start driving the ball out a little bit more, like we were seeing in those first couple weeks? Just get back to some comfort and confidence at the plate. And I'm excited to see him this week against the Rays. So I think there's a lot to like there. And then David Fry, I want to just point out, did hit our David Fry home run bet on last weekend. He was our pick for the weekend. Manzardo a couple weeks ago, we hit that as well. So hey, we'll hit another one. How about this? I'll give you one. I'll give you a Monday pick. Not really supposed to do that, but I'm making the rules for this one. So a Monday pick for a home run. I'm not sure who's exactly going to be in the lineup, but we talked about him. We spent all this time talking about Daniel Schneeman. Let's go Daniel Schneeman, home run. That's our pick. And then honestly, right now, that's what we got to talk about. That covers it for this open to the Monday. We got baseball. We got the Guardians and the Rays at tonight against a Progressive Field. A lot of exciting things going on there. Gonna be back tomorrow. We're gonna recap it. And then we got Tanner Bybee on the mound tomorrow. He's been a little better lately. I've been hard on him, but he's been a little better lately. Maybe we keep that going. That'll be a little discussion. That's a little teaser, is like we call it in the industry, a teaser for tomorrow. So hang tight. We'll get back to all that stuff tomorrow morning. Looking forward to it. And as always, go Guardians.